November 12th, 2025 Forest Grove School District Board of Directors meeting is called to order at 5:30 p.m. We will start with roll call of board members present. Risa Franco. Here. Kate Gradusky. Here. Pete Truax.
Here.
Maya Andrade. Here. Christy Kotke is here and Alma Lozano is absent tonight. I'd like us all to rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I'm looking for approval of tonight's agenda. So move. I second. All in favor say aye. 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 And we're going to move to student representative report. Welcome, Maya.
Good afternoon, everybody. A happy November. Let's see. The report for high school. Going into that, and I'm going to present a club. Still a little unprepared, so hopefully it goes fine. Let's see. Starting in November, students in ASB have been working hard to give back to our community by hosting a food drive for those who are affected by the food benefit cuts. The first two are scheduled on Monday and Friday of next week. And this week they've been working on getting donations. We're actually still happily taking any donations from the community, and our drop-off boxes are located at the high school, throughout the school. Additionally, our Latinos in Action group has started preparing for a hiking drive as well, to give back to the community. More details on that drive are coming soon. Lastly, winter sports have wrapped up, not without a bang. Our volleyball girls did really well, as well as our cross-country team. Few of them made it to state this season, so really good. And then, of course, all our other winter sports did amazing. I'll wrap up this part of my report by saying that my dad is having a concert on Sunday, from 12 to 5, and a little bit more information on that on their Instagram, will post. So yeah, if you want to hear a beautiful mariachi performer live, stop by and check it out. They're doing amazing. Christy had asked me to start, I guess, representing some clubs, and it was one of my promises here was to bring more recognition. And so I'd like to start off by presenting our Forest Grove High School theater club, the Thespian Club. Hardworking theater students stay once a week after school and more at show times, start arriving a bit earlier. They work with each other to memorize lines, create sets, perform for our schools and our families. And all of them are incredibly talented, and they'd love to get some more support from the general public. Actually, they're currently performing a meal at Ellen Stevens Resort, November 14th to 15th, 21st, 22nd at 7 p.m. So for those that want to show some support and see how great our theater club is, that would be great. So other than that, I have the whole much.
Okay, thank you, Maya. Questions for Maya at all about those activities? It's a food box that people are bringing things to the high school, so they just come to the front door.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll have boxes there available.
Okay. And Director Truax?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to congratulate the students at Forest Grove High School and the students at Cornelius Grade School. And if you would extend my thanks for their work this morning and this afternoon during the visitation that Senator Solomon and Representative McLean took part in at Forest Grove High School and at Cornelius Grade School. Students who were involved in that did an outstanding job, and they need to be congratulated. And if I had taken time to get the names, I'd be writing letters of thanks to them, but I'm incompetent, so there you go.
We can get those. We have them. All right. With that, let me see. We are going to move to board reports, and I'm actually going to start with Director Truax tonight.
I have one, possibly two things I want to comment on. I had the privilege of attending the 79th annual conference of the Oregon School Boards Association in Portland last Thursday through Saturday. Because of the Veterans Day celebration at Forest Grove High School Thursday morning, I missed the opening session, but the afternoon session was pretty much given over to discussion by various board members on concern over directions by the State Department of Education to implement the program budgeting and accounting manual. Rationale in seeking the delay in the schedule was the process as lined out would create staffing issues and could lead to untenable cost increases for many districts across the state of Oregon. So there was considerable relief on ODE announced a postponement in implementing the standards PBAM. Parenthetically, our Director of Finance, Eileen Klute, sent a wonderful letter off to the powers that be at ODE, and it played a major role in persuading the delay in that implementation without more conversation. Also in play at the conference was the adoption of new and revised board policies. There was an urgent request that such adoption and notification not take place until after the winter break in December. Putting those policies into play at the same time other year-end requirements were expected to be accomplished would have been an unenviable task. The upcoming projected financial shortfall is also causing considerable angst throughout the state. District will be dealing with the deficit, especially as the state economic forecast becomes available. And last but most assuredly not least, the actions of the federal government regarding immigrant arrest and detention also on the agenda. The behavior of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, lovingly referred to as ICE, is disrupting schools, and that's an editorial comment, I apologize, is disrupting schools through a variety of ways, such as illegally entering schools and asking for protected information, patrolling neighborhoods around schools, and arresting and detaining parents of school-aged children, which, to say the least, disrupts the educational process. And it was a good chance to meet other board members around the state, share ideas, complaints, possible solutions, and just general comments. So that was the Oregon School Boards Association Convention, which is as old as I am.
Thank you.
Yes.
May I make a comment?
Of course.
Thank you, Director Truax. I'm really glad to hear that our school board directors from around the state are having these conversations and share the concerns that we have talked about as district leaders. I also want to say, in our district so far, ICE has not entered any of our campuses or our schools. They have not asked for any student information or staff information to date. So our schools remain safe places for our schools. I understand that there is concern about that happening, but it has not happened at least yet. Anything else for Truax?
I guess I was urged to also comment or repeat the comments that I made Monday night and the city council meeting, also concerning the same subject. And I said, and I quote, "I want to take this opportunity to thank Mayor Wenzel and council for a chance to comment on the effort by residents to raise their concerns about the presence of ICE in our community and its blatant disregard for we the people." These, by the way, are my comments, not necessarily reflect the feeling of any of the other board members. I'm speaking for myself in that regard. I served on this council, on Forest Grove City Council, for 22 years, and have worked with some of you on the dais tonight. Others I've come to know and respect for your commitment to public service. I am now a neophyte member of the board of directors, Forest Grove School District. School district is also facing this onslaught of autocracy. We are developing, as is every other district in the state of Oregon, policies and procedures to protect our students and by extension, their families. Pragmatically, we do this to maintain an environment where learning can take place. We all know from Maslow's hierarchy that certain needs for a person must be met before other goals and needs can be addressed. Personal safety and protection rank at the top echelon of this hierarchy. If a student feels unsafe, if the student feels threatened, if the student is concerned about family members, then that student will not be as concerned with parsing sentences, conjugating French verbs, or solving quadratic equations. And that's where all of us come in. I mentioned to the city council that I would rather hope that rather than a work session, they would hold a public hearing on any proposal concerning the state of emergency. And that was the issue they were allowing public comment on, or having public comment on Monday night. That decision will be the council's, but we all should have the pathway open for testimony on this proposal. I know it would be awkward. I know it could even get confrontational. That's what we do in a democracy. We cannot afford to use the same weapons as those who would rather limit discussion, those who would rather name call, those who would rather do an end run around the Constitution and Bill of Rights. I like to believe that I'm a student of government. I'm still learning at 19 years to plagiarize Abe Lincoln. We've come a long way since 1776, but the words at the end of the Declaration of Independence are as vivid and strong tonight as they were then. And for the support of this declaration with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortune, our sacred honor. In 2025, at the city council, the school district, and around this country, we can do no less. And I'll give copies of this to Ms. Magnuson for the record.
Thank you, Mayor Truax. That brings back some echoes. Well, former mayor, but always mayor, and your care for the city and our schools is noted and appreciated. Very glad to have those words on the dais, and I will build on that before turning it over to Kate, because I did also want to acknowledge the impact of the ongoing ICE raids on our community. I was able to watch the city council meeting. I have not yet watched the work session, but that would also be worth a watch. And I was thankful for the comments by Director Truax. Also want to acknowledge Melissa Tim, a Forest Grove educator who spoke out, former Forest Grove educator that also spoke, members of Indivisible, which came to speak publicly in support of our community. The one woman that resonated with me the most, and I believe her name was Sandra, I didn't catch her last name, was I think the last person to speak for public comment. And she talked to her courage in speaking publicly, despite her acknowledged fears, were inspirational, were, I think, just incredible. And multiple people have mentioned that what we see happening is wrong on a constitutional level. I think for me personally, beyond that, and for many, although I won't speak again for anyone else, it's wrong on a human level. And I spend a lot of time thinking about where that's coming from. And I think it's a reflection of how each of us are brought up and what we see right now happening, despite what our Constitution protections of those allow, also just how we want to treat ourselves as humans. And so I appreciated the show of support by City Council, our community that continues to speak out and speak up, including this board. And some of the questions that we're getting, as well as the council, are what can we do? And also people wanting to know what they can do. And we'll continue to remind people that in these roles, we are connected. We will be at meetings next week, connected with community partners to streamline our communication. We encourage people to plug in where they can, whether it's donating to Adelante or Centro, the Oregon Food Bank, helping with the hygiene or food drive, or just simply speaking out and speaking to your neighbors about what you're seeing and what is okay and not okay in this community and in this country. And I'm really inspired by what we're seeing in the leadership in this city and in this community, and in particular in the school district. And I'll pivot there because speaking of leaders who actually do their leadership with people in mind and professionalism and information and expertise, I do want to second the thanks for Director Clute in her drafting of a letter that had impacts around the state. She and her financial team were able to put together something that included details that we were able to get directly to Senator Solomon and Representative McLean, who were then in real time on the same day able to talk to people in the Legislative Fiscal Office and advocate for the needs of districts around the state. That resulted in an immediate change and pause on a process that we believe really needs to be redefined and looked at. And so on top of doing the work that this entire team is doing in the midst of more cuts, in the midst of what we're dealing with nationally, our CFO is then basically and essentially advocating for all the kids in the state by providing something that could be used. So I really I know we are all appreciative, and it's kind of like level in the weeds that most people in the community would not see, but it is seen, it's appreciated, it is helping other people outside, and it's inspirational. And finally, again, we're talking about, again, leadership that's collaborative with kids in mind. And thanks to Assistant Superintendent Loma Lee today, Bethany Magnuson, Dr. West. I want to acknowledge the Hillsborough team, Travis Ryman, Brooke Nova. I know Audrey Neville, Beth Brazier, the whole team that came together today to not gonna spend time today talking about what we did, but we were able to be in schools today, seeing our educators in the midst of all that's going on, doing excellent work in the classrooms with kids that were 100% engaged and learning their letters, their words, their collaborative efforts, being at the high school to see the CTE programs, the kids in the Woods program, eating a lunch prepared by our culinary students, students who said that those are the reasons they are staying in school. Extremely powerful for our representatives to see in real time, coupled with data that Dr. West and Travis Ryman were able to present that really connected those programs to outcomes for kids. So really proud of the people we're around and we have in our district leading and in our community. And it's just, it continues to bring me hope. So with that, Kate, I know you had a couple things you'd like to say, and then we'll go over to the superintendent report.
Well, mine is a little bit different. You know, today was a wonderful day, and I really appreciate Hillsborough and our staff here at Westboro. It was just really inspirational, and I know everybody was really putting the time and energy to put this together, and very, very appreciative. I always see. I just wanted to share that even though we have ICE and we have SNAP and the challenges we have, historically out in Gales Creek, we've always had a Halloween party, and the district has been very nice to let us continue that. And on October 18th, we had 80 people that came to the gym, and it's totally volunteer. The gym was decorated. We called her our mayor and our sheriff, Joyce Sauber, who's 90 and a half. She'll be 91 in February. She always runs the popcorn machine. There's a new popcorn machine, and she didn't want anyone to take over. So it was really wonderful to see. It's mostly little children that come because, you know, they're like 3, 4, 5, and going out at night is really challenging. We have a movie for them. And so that was a really good event. And it's usually last year, we didn't have as many children, and this year, we ended up having to leave and get more candy, and it was always good. And the other thing is I continually support Cornelius Elementary School. I would like to go to every school, and I help in the library for way books. And then I read to the pre-kinder, kinder, and also first grade. And there's been a reduction in staff, so having an extra body in the classroom has been very, very helpful, and they've been appreciative. And I get the joy of all the fun, so I really appreciate being able to run the classroom.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I need to comment on Director Grandusky's statement about Joyce Sauber. When I was Fuzzy Teen graduate of Pacific University, here comes another history lesson. In 1969, I got a job just before I got that incredible job off of the United States government for foreign relations. I worked at the News Times. I was the interim editor of the News Times, and it was my job to edit the material that came in from the various correspondents from Delhi, from Gaston, from Laurelwood, and from Gales Creek. Joyce Sauber was the lady that sent the material in, was the Gales Creek correspondent. And like I said, it was my job to edit. Knowing, I learned rather quickly that I edited and made changes to Ms. Sauber's input at the threat of my own life. There were points where I would get a phone call saying, you need to understand, and I grew to understand, and let her material pass unmarked by my red pencil, but Choice Sabo is a contribution to that community that has enriched it over the years. So you brought back memories, and thank you.
I think she's enriched Forest Grove too, the historical, community, and also plaquing all these, houses in Forest Grove and the research that they're teaching. So, I mean, you're never too old for giving back to your community, and she's really pretty special.
It's true. All right, thank you for that. We're gonna go over to Dr. West for superintendent report. She said, yeah, checked. Super, thank you. I want to begin with gratitude. These last few weeks have been extraordinarily stressful for many people in our community. And we have remarkable staff that continue to show up for kids and for each other. And so I want to start by thanking the staff of the Forest Grove School District who are going above and beyond every single day to support our community, to support each other, to do what's right for kids at this moment. We've already talked about the impact of ICE, and it is real. People are afraid. And we have young people in our community, students that have been directly impacted because they have lost one of both parents to apprehension by ICE agents. We have families that are fearful of leaving their home, that are no longer going to work, that are finding it difficult to find groceries. And again, we have a tremendous community. We have our staff as well as community members and community partners that are stepping up to help in whatever way they can. I want to share with the board that the school district is taking some measures to try to relieve some of the pressure that our families are feeling, at least in terms of education. We have, in some instances, been able to identify where we can make alterations to bus routes so that students have more direct access to the bus so they don't have to walk 5, 6, 7 blocks or more to get to their bus stop. And we're hopeful that that will help some of the students who haven't been attending school. We have some staff that are standing outside the school in the morning or walking across the street in the hopes students get across the street because some of our students are very close, but still fearful of walking by themselves in the school. So we have escorts that are taking place in several of our school locations as well. We have staff that are collecting food and hygiene items and making deliveries to homes. I'm really excited to hear about the food drive at the high school and the upcoming hygiene drive. I think that would be very helpful to our families. Not just to those impacted by ICE, but as you said, SNAP benefits were cut off for a period of time. And that is really harmful to many in our community. So thank you for that. And we'll work with the high school on that as a school district wherever we can. We also are working with a partner school district, the Hillsborough School District, which you mentioned today we spent some time with during a legislative visit. Hillsborough has had a long-standing online education program. We do not, and it is cost prohibitive for us to suddenly create one or stand one up. So we are in conversations with the Hillsborough School District to buy some spots in their program so that for students for whom we simply cannot get to school in this moment, they can access their education through an online means. And our high school is doing something similar for high school students that may not be able to attend. The high school has been using a learning management system called Canvas that we began using during the pandemic. They never stopped. So the high school actually has mechanisms in place already where they can start to offer some online learning to students. So they're going to do some of that work to see if we can support students in that way. So we are taking the steps that we feel like we need to do in this moment to ensure that students remain connected to their schools. This is for the students that we know about. Unfortunately, because of the immigration enforcement, we have also simply lost a number of students who don't know where they are. We suspect many of them have either left their communities
or they and their families have gone to ground. And they're just not in communication with the school district right now. So this is an incredibly stressful time. People care deeply about the children in our schools, both our community as well as our staff. There's a lot of people working to help. One of the number one questions that I have been fielding is what can we do to help? And I think in this moment, as has already been suggested, there's a lot that can be done to help. Donations can be made to community partners like Adelante and Centro. Donations can be made directly to our Family Resource Center, which is located at Cornelius Elementary School. And those donations can be monetary, but they can also be in non-perishable food items, it can be clothing, they can be blankets, it can be hygiene items. All of those donations will be packaged and distributed almost as soon as they come in, so we'll accept those donations. And then I suggest to people as well to check in on their neighbors. The impact that we've been feeling in our community, while ICE is certainly a significant impact, we also have had food services cut off to people who are not immigrants in our community. And we have rising healthcare costs now. There are some people may not be able to afford healthcare. And so simply checking in on neighbors and seeing how they're doing and offering to take them to a doctor's appointment or cook a meal for them can go a long way in this moment. So I wanted to share all that with the board and let you know that we're doing all what we can to help connect kids back to their schooling, and we will continue to do that for as long as we do at this moment. Any questions about that before I go on? Okay. In addition to that, switching gears just a little bit, we had our legislative visit today, and there will be things that I think will come from that for many weeks and months to come. But one of the things that I want to point out is that we're about to have some very difficult conversations in the state about how do we fund schools? How do we fund a lot of things in the state? There's a budgetary shortfall in the state right now, but especially how do we fund schools? And I'm bringing that up in the context of this other conversation, because as resources contract, and I think they probably will contract, as we engage in conversations with our state elected officials around what schools need, I think we need to keep at the forefront right now that not only do we have needs around the basic education that we provide to students, but the social needs are at least as important in this moment. And I think there's a place for that in the conversation. And our elected officials, as I visited with one-on-one today, they're keenly aware of this. And it's top of mind for them that our educators and our support staff in our schools in many cases are acting like first responders to the situations that our young people are. So I wanted to bring that up here too. And then I have just one more thing to share, and this is very technical and not related to ICE or necessarily the legislative conversation that's ahead of us. Are you helping me or am I doing this? I'm doing it. Great, thank you. This is our enrollment report, and it's a report that I brought into the boardroom every month last year. I'm going to spend a little bit of time on that report here because for some of us in this space, it's new. For a couple of us, we've seen it a lot. But I want to orient you to what you're actually seeing on the screen here. This enrollment report is broken down by grade groups, and then it is compared to what we budgeted for those grade groups, and then the variance is shown there. And the numbers that I want to point out to you, the red circle there right now, that's our current K enrollment as of November 3rd, so just a handful of days ago. Our average class size is 20 at the kindergarten level. Our weighted average class size in grades 9 through 12 is 32. I want to pause for a minute and talk about weighted average class size. So you see there's two different numbers there for the high school. We have 24, but then we also have the number 32. The reason for that is that the high school teachers don't teach every single class period. So we use a formula to determine what the actual class size is based on the fact that those class periods is not included in the calculation. Then what we do is we compare that to what we budgeted. So if we look at our budget here, oops, I'm gonna go back. For kindergarten, we have 345 students budgeted. We actually have 332 enrolled as of November 3rd. The difference there is 13 students. And so we would say that we have a 13 student variance. We are below what we budgeted. We monitor this and we monitor it for these different grade bands because our funding is determined largely by enrollment. The state does a smoothing model over a 2-year period where for a 2-year period, they look at the number of students you have in each year and they fund you based on the greater of those two numbers so that it's not quite such a serious hit if you experience a significant enrollment drop. But it catches up with us eventually. Last year, if you remember, we ended this year about 130 students below our budgeted enrollment projections. We are about 40 students below now, 38 students below now, which is about where we were at the beginning of the last year too. So we expect that our enrollment numbers may continue to decline, especially in light of the immigration enforcement that we're currently experiencing. But we will continue to monitor those. The one thing I want to point out here is the high school number, right above that red circle. The high school is over our projections, which is curious to us. We do account for the students that we think we will see re-enroll in our schools from the private schools in our area. So this is above and beyond that projection that we would expect to get back every year. But the balance between what we are below in our elementary and middle school levels, just our elementary levels, and then where we are over at the high school still has us at a negative number.
So you project, but if what I'm hearing is right, you already project a number knowing that there will be some amount of students coming in after kids leave. Correct. Based on just what the trends have been over the last. Correct. Yeah. What is that? I mean, about how much higher is that than what we projected?
I'm gonna actually ask Director Pitts to help us out with this, since she does this for the other people.
Yeah, so the budget is where we believe enrollment is gonna be February 1st of each year. Because that's typically our average over the course of the year. Looking at the high school, between now and February last year, they lost about 40 students. So we do think that 81 is gonna drop between now and February 1st. So that will level out closer to an alignment with what we had budgeted by then. Because the high school starts out really strong and then ends a lot lower by the end of the year. So we're really trying to look at what that February enrollment is going to be compared to budget. And then as far as budgeting for like Foursquare Community School and the private schools coming in to the high school, we typically budget the Neil Armstrong 8th graders and then add 50 students for that influx of our local private schools and community schools.
Then we have one more slide that we look at regularly, and this is the breakdown by building. So you can see the current enrollment for each of our schools and the variance there compared to budget. Again, the high school is the one school, well, Neil Armstrong is one skipped over, essentially flat. But the high school is 88 students over what we budgeted. And then we look at our current student to staff ratios as well. And we do that because having a ratio number that is manageable in our classrooms is really important. Now, what that ratio means is that we may have some classrooms, so that kindergarten number, for example, that was an average class size of 20. That means that we probably have some kindergarten classrooms with 22, 23, 24 in it, and we have some kindergarten classrooms with 16, 17, 18 students in it. So That's how we arrive at that average, and that's how we use ratios as well. These are not class caps. These are the targets that we set for ourselves to try to ensure that our classrooms remain manageable for our teachers. What questions may I answer for you about this slide?
Yeah, I'm trying to form it. It looks a little, the variance at the elementary level pretty much goes across the spectrum. It's not constant. Is there an educated guess as to why, or do I need some further education as to why that? I don't want to call it an imbalance. Just those differences, when maybe we go from a decline of 52 at Joe Gale to 1 at Fern Hill.
We can make some educated guesses. Again, I think that immigration has something to do with at least a few of these numbers. Joseph Gale seems to be significantly impacted by the immigration enforcement right now. We also have Echo Shaw and Cornelius, our two elementary schools located in Cornelius, that have been impacted, but not to the degree Joseph Gale is. When I talked about the number of students that were not coming to school, a sizable number of those are in the Joseph Gale boundary area. Those students we know about, so it's not part of this 52. I'm bringing that up because I do know anecdotally that that community seems particularly impacted by what's going on with ICE. Beyond that, we would need to do some investigating for why those variances are what they are. We can do that. We can talk to some of our leaders and determine who are these students that we expected to have back this year that time.
Thank you.
So what percentage of Hispanic students are at Joseph Dale versus Cornelius?
I can pull that up for you. I'll bring that up in just a couple of minutes here. I'll need to pull up a report. So rather than stop this process, I can do that while you're moving on to the next agenda item, and then we can come back to it if that's all right.
Sure. Okay. Okay, our next agenda item is Forest Grove Education Association. I don't believe there are comments from the tonight. All right, so we'll move to unscheduled public appearance. The board appreciates community members sharing information during public comments. Public comments can be made in person or through Zoom by submitting the designated form on the webpage. Public comments can be limited to 3 minutes, as is the protocol for the board meetings. Board members will not comment or respond to questions. Public criticism or complaints about school district personnel are not allowed. I do believe we have one public comment scheduled for tonight is online, and it is Zoom, and it is Sean Lee. And I think Sean is online already, if that's correct, if okay. All right,
Hey guys,
welcome.
yeah.
State your name and your role and your reason for speaking to us tonight, and then go ahead.
Hey, teacher, a long-time teacher at Oak Grove Academy, at the Tom McCall site in particular. I have a little short message prepared here, and then just as a side thing, I heard about the thing with Hillsborough Online, and I just had a quick thought of like maybe this is a place where we could use our migrant worker coaches and maybe people from our DEI team to help coach parents how to access the free online schools that are out there, like Oregon Connections and K-12 Academy and stuff like that. And maybe that'd be a cool way to save some money. Anyway, what I'm really here to speak about is something that's have been spoken about for many years, honestly. But I'm here to talk about something that is, I believe, simple, well, not simple so much, but fair and long overdue. And that is differentiated pay for instructional assistants who work in our highest needs programs, particularly Oak Grove Academy. Oak Grove serves the most challenging students in the entire public school system, and that's why other districts contract with us to educate their students, because few others even have a program like this. That fact alone shows the extraordinary value that Oak Grove brings to our district. We bring in revenue while serving students that many other districts cannot. But that value comes at a cost, one that is carried by our staff every single day. We work with students who are often in crisis, who may strike, bite, or throw objects, who can be physically larger and stronger than we are. I've seen staff suffer concussions, broken bones, deep bites, ripped hair, damaged property, including personal vehicles. And every single one of us comes back to work the next day, smiling, patient, ready to work again with those same students. And that level of commitment isn't normal. It's exceptional. And yet our compensation, the staff members' compensation, doesn't really reflect that reality. The job of an Oak Grove skills trainer is not the same as a general classroom IA or recess duty assignment, or really any other kinds of IAs across the district. The training, the risk, and the emotional and physical toll are on another level entirely. Differentiated pay isn't about special treatment, it's about fairness and sustainability. That's the important part for me. Oak Grove only works because we have long-term dedicated staff who are willing to do extraordinarily difficult work out of love for the students and belief in the program. But even the most dedicated people cannot absorb this level of strain forever without real recognition and support. Oak Grove is also highly successful because we have probably the best IA retention in the entire district, and I would honestly put it up against any SPED program in the state. I believe there also needs to be an extension on payroll or another mechanism to authentically and financially reward staff who've chosen to stay here for so many years. My best staff members who have been with me for over a decade at Oak Grove net about $1,800 a month. I don't know how they live on that or survive in this community on that. And it makes me feel like this job is going to only be for people who have well-paid spouses, or people who are willing to, which is what I currently have, people who are willing to trade their best years for barely being able to afford a studio in this city. Or do we want Oak Grove just to be staffed by very young people, or people who are in life transitions that society just expects to take a low salary? If we don't act now, I believe that we risk losing the very staff that keep Oak Grove and the contracts that help fund it alive. Paying our people fairly is far less costly than rebuilding the program, and definitely cheaper than outsourcing Forest Grove students to other people's programs. I see I'm running out of time and I've made my point. So thank you so much for hearing me.
Thank you, Sean. All right, we are going to move to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is made up of routine, non-controversial items to be voted on under one motion. Are there any items within the consent agenda a board member or the superintendent wishes to discuss separately? Seeing none, I'll look for a motion.
So moved, Madam Chair.
I said,
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. And we're on to first read, policy updates with Superintendent Dr. West.
Great, is first read? It is a first read, I have to double check that. Okay, so you have in your packet several policies for a first read. The practice of our school district is that we have a small policy committee that reviews our policy revisions ahead of the first read. So they're able to get eyes on, ask questions, make recommendations. Once we go through that process, then we bring them to the full board for a first read. This is your opportunity to go home. You can do it right now, read through all of those policies. And if you have any questions about the policy revisions that are proposed, please forward those to me or to Bethany Magnuson, and we'll be sure to respond to that before we bring these back for a second read next month. Any questions?
All right, thank you.
May I answer, actually, may I answer the question about the demographics of Joseph Gale? Joseph Gale, this is as of the state report, for the last official state report. We have a Latino population of 22% at Joseph Gale Elementary School. 36% are ever English learners. Does that answer the question?
yeah, I was thinking that the number might be higher at Josephine, but it's not.
No, it's not.
Yeah, and I mean, Cornelius is higher, Cornelius is pretty high, so,
Cornelius and Echo Shop both are about 90%.
yeah. Yeah, so it'd be interesting to tease out why that number
It's something we need to dig into, and see if we can figure out why. We may not be able to answer all questions. Sometimes when students leave, we don't know the reasons why they leave, but some of these questions we'll be able to answer.
Thank you.
Yes, of course.
All right, there being no further business, this meeting is adjourned at